Hello, my fellow Naxters. This is Guy Marshall with Fine Mountain Consulting, and I wanted to walk everyone through setting up tooltips using the code that we've generated. It's a pretty simple process. Let's kind of lay the groundwork here. The first thing we're looking at here is the custom CRM template from the NAC library, just for demonstration purposes. Let's say, under leads, under add new contact, we wanted to put a tooltip on one of these fields. Okay. For example, on the website field, I want to say HTTPS is required so that we have that in there. You can obviously go into the field, into the builder, and go into that field and type it in, and it shows up as text underneath the field. That can be it's just not a traditional tooltips way of doing things. And a more traditional tooltips typically resonates better with your clients. Or the users of the app. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how to set this up. So first and foremost, go out to my website, finemountainconsulting.com, go to sign in or sign up. If you don't have an account, go ahead and create one. It'll allow you to do that. I've already gone ahead and done this test. So I've logged in. I go to my plugin licenses. The first thing we want to do is add a license. And you'll notice under the products, we have all of our products listed here. So if you ever need anything else, you obviously have the ability to come in here as well. The one we're going to do is this tooltip self install. And then the license key, this can be anything you want it to be. I'm just going to put in some text. But it should be something that you recognize so that you can come back and know exactly what this code is doing. Okay, the next piece we want to do is actually pay for this. It is a $50 fee for that code. You'll see if you want us to set this up, we'll go ahead and do that for you, but it is a $500 fee, and that is one of the selections in the add license dropdown. So go ahead and click pay. And what you're going to see is we get to this page. It gives you kind of a description of all the stuff we can do. You can see the rollovers of the traditional tooltips here. And then there's the payment piece. And you'll notice I've got a fake credit card in here. This obviously is in test mode, but it won't be when you guys go to checkout. So go ahead and charge this. And what this does is actually drops you into setting up your code. Okay. So you'll notice here for self-install, there's this setup tooltips link here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the one we just created. And you'll see I've got a bunch of text here that shows me what to do. I'm not going to go through all of these. Okay, so you've got all the steps that we need to do. The first thing we need to do is create a tooltips object. You can call it whatever you'd like, but tooltip is usually the most descriptive. So let's go to our builder for this app. We're going to create a new object called tooltip. Okay. Once I've created that object, I need to create all the fields that are required for the tooltip to work. And that's tooltip name, tooltip text, all of these guys right here. I'm going to go ahead and create those behind the scenes so you don't have to watch me do that. Okay, so we've gone ahead and set up all the fields according to the directions. So you can see all 1 through 8 here. I've got set up here 1 through 8 here. So to note, these are all short text fields except for the last one is the tooltip position as a multiple choice. Also to note, we have top, right, and bottom because the left is the default. So if you don't set this field when you set up your tooltips, it will default to the left side. We have top, right, bottom. Also to note, those are capitalized, so please capitalize those as well for this to work properly. Okay, so next step, now that we've followed this, is to create a new page called the Tooltips page. So if we go back to here, we go into our pages, you'll notice where we want to set this up is in this sales rep dashboard. Okay, so this is the page we want to set it up, but what we're doing here is actually creating a new page called Tooltips. Let's go here. Go ahead and add a page. I'm going to go ahead and do a blank page because we're not going to have any login credentials. This page is going to actually act as your data source. So let's go ahead and call this Tooltips. Okay. All right. So we've got a new page with no login. You'll notice there's no logins behind that. The next step we need to take, go into the settings for that Tooltips page and make sure that it doesn't show up in the menu. This is so that you can't navigate to that page, which is what we want here. So I go into the settings, I go in here and I say check off the display as a page menu. And I typically do this include page menu at the top as well. This one doesn't matter, but it just makes the page look a little cleaner. So go ahead and save that. The next piece of this is to add a table scene looking at the tooltips objects on this tooltips page. So we go here, go to views, I add a table. It looks at the tooltips object and I add that view. You'll notice that there's no links or anything on here. But we need to make sure that all those fields are showing on here. It doesn't matter what order they're in. I like to do it this way just because it kind of makes sense to me. But you'll see my last one here is tooltip text color. So I'm going to go ahead and add tooltip background color and tooltip position to that as well. And go ahead and save that. Again, this page is going to basically end up being our data source. So this is how we use the JavaScript to do the tooltips without having to actually use API calls. So that's what we're doing here with this page. Okay, so the next piece of this is we've got all those items on as columns. Make sure we show 100 records. Now, this is important because you can have up to 100 tooltips on here. If you have more than 100 tooltips, we're going to come up with a different solution. So it's really not that big a deal. Most people don't hit this, and I'll show you why. So I want to go in here, display 100 records at a time, and hit save. All right, so the next step, note this is what I just told you. You can only show 100 tooltips records at a time. The next piece we want to do is generate our code. Okay. We also want to copy and once we have generated the code, I'll show you this as well. We're going to copy and paste those back in to your app. Okay. So first and foremost, we need to define what fields apply to what settings. Okay. So the most important thing is we need to know what app ID we're going to be actually looking at. You'll notice that I have a nice little tooltip here, which kind of tells you how to do stuff. If you go into your builder and you go into the API and code, here's your application ID right here under API and code. So that's the first thing we're going to take, and we're going to paste that right into here. Okay. The next one is the tooltip field ID. Okay. So we're all going to be entering field IDs through this setup. So this is the applies to field. So if we go back to our builder here and go into the data and look at that tooltips, it's this field right here. Now there's a couple different ways to actually get the field IDs. None of them are particularly built into the system. The first one is if you roll over the name or the short text here, you'll see down at the very bottom of the screen, and I'd roll it's going to end up down here, right on your edge there. You'll see that actually at the very end, right before it says type, it gives you the field ID. That field ID is field _70. Okay, so that's one way to do this. And what we would do is go back to here and we'd say field _70 to define that the tooltip field, the applies to field, is designated as field 70. Please note this is lowercase. It will not work if you use uppercase or capital letters. So underscore is here and then 70 afterwards. Okay, so the next one is as defined by here. This is the view ID. If we look under here, it says limit to view as the field. Go to here, limit to views here. I roll over it, it's field 71. And so on and so forth. Field _71. Okay. Okay, you'll notice went ahead and filled in all these field IDs. Didn't think you needed to watch me do all that. This last one here is very important, and this is the tooltip URL. Now you'll notice I give you kind of a long description here of how this is supposed to be set up. But in short, what we basically need to go is go back to your builder, go into the pages, go into the page you just built, and click on the actual table view here. And what's going to come up here is this up in the URL string. And I know I kind of cut that out, but essentially at the tail end of the URL string, it tells you what scene and view is your data source. So I'm going to copy and paste this. And I know I realize that you're not seeing this on the screen, but essentially this is what it looks like. So let me switch back to here and drop that in. Okay. The key here is, yes, I pulled that directly out of the builder on the page where our data source is. The key to this is you have to put another slash and put records into the end. And you'll notice that that's how this is set up in our tooltip here. Example scene 32, views underscore 56, and then records is right after it. Okay. So you've got a reference there on how to do that, but that, so no trailing slash and no leading slash in that, and it'll work perfectly. Okay. So that's it for the setup. Let's go ahead and click generate our code. And you'll notice we've got our code in two different pieces here. The first piece is the JavaScript. This is obfuscated. The reason why is just to protect our intellectual property. But if we go ahead and grab all of this and copy it, we'll go back to our builder and go into the API and code, go to JavaScript, and go ahead and just paste that in. You'll notice it comes out in one big long line. Yeah, hard to to read. So let's go ahead and save that, and then we'll go back to here, and we'll get our CSS markup as well. Go ahead and copy and paste that into the CSS side. Okay. And that is it for the code setup. Okay. No, you don't have to modify anything. Everything is done for you in the code during the setup on our website during the portal setup. All right. So next thing is to test this thing. So it's very simple to test. The first thing you want to do is if we go back out to here, this website field is originally where we wanted to put a tooltip right there. Okay. So let's go ahead and figure that out. If we go to, it's under leads, add contact. So if we go to the leads page and then add leads page, add contact. Okay. This is the form we're actually looking at, and this is the field that we want the tooltip to show up on. So the reason I'm bringing you in here is because the field ID for this field is not on this form. It's actually fairly difficult to get to going through the builder. Okay, even if I click on this to edit, you still can't see it in the URL string or anything like that. So the easiest way to do that is actually through the UI. So if you go into the inspect mode, and then you click on this little arrow right here, and then you roll over the field that you want your tooltip to show up on, you'll see right there it says input hashtag field underscore 28. So that's the apply to field. Okay, so let's go ahead and remember that field 28 is where we want to apply this. Okay, so let me go ahead and close this and go back here. You can certainly build a UI for adding tooltips, as is not a big deal. You can add a UI through to add your tooltips on the fly through the web. I'm going to do this through the back end just to show you guys, so you can do it this way as well. So this is web HTTPS requirement. So I'm going to have the tooltips tag say, please note, HTTPS is required. So if we remember correctly over here, the field ID we want here is field underscore 28. So let's take that back to here. Applies to is field underscore 28. Okay, so these two fields, the limit to view and the limit to scene, are optional. The idea here is if I apply this to field 28 on this UI, every time, every form that I use where this field shows up, that tooltip is going to show up. Now, the reason why we have the limit to view, limit to scene is if we potentially only want it on one form and on none of the other forms. And the way you can get your scenes is actually through the URL string up here under your page. So if you go into any of the pages, let's say we wanted to see it under that particular page for add contact. If you look up in the URL string, which I will bring down here, you'll see that I have this tells me what scene I'm on. Now you can do it down to even further than that. This if I wanted it to only show up on this scene, I could put scene underscore 14 into that configuration or into that record, and it would only show up for this scene. Now we can do views too. So if there's multiple forms that are on the that same page with that same field, you can even do it down to the even further. So let's go back here and go back to the data and go into our tooltip records here. So let's go back and do this again. So this is for HTTPS. Please only use HTTPS. Applies to field underscore 28, if I remember correctly. Let's make sure of that because I keep forgetting. Yep, field 28. So we got, and then we could, I could do the limit to view. I'm not going to go ahead and do that just for this. So you can use hash colors in here, or you can use the normal colors if it's something simple like blue, black, red, green, white, that sort of thing. So the color here, I'm going to actually have the text as white, and the background color is black. Just to be simple. And I'm going to go ahead and put that tooltip position as top. So I'm going to go ahead and add this record. All right, so now if I go into here, and we're going to test to make sure that this worked, and we're going to go ahead and refresh this page. Let me pull this up here, and you'll notice magically that we now have a little tooltip right here. So as I roll over, it says please only use HTTPS. Now, this is where you can test, right? If you don't like where that position is, you can do it to the right. And I kind of think I want to put that to the right because it's covering up the field above it. So if I wanted to change that really quick, I could go in here and just simply click on right, submit, go back and refresh, and magically it's to the right now. Okay. So this is some great tools on how to get this whole thing set up. The other thing is you can do this on unlimited fields throughout forms on your application. There is no limit once you've got all this installed to how many tooltips you can put on here. However, this page view right here that has all of our tooltips, which is being used as our data source, can only have up to 100 as the records that it's showing at a time. So you can have up to 100 tooltips, and this is a limitation that NAC has put into place. So obviously it translates into a limitation of that. So that is our traditional way of doing tooltips or adding traditional tooltips to your app. Let us know if you'd like us to set that up for you. We can certainly do that. And if you'd like to try it, get it set up yourself, then by all means, go for it. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful day.